Good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock now. We're just giving it another minute or two to let a few more folks in, and then we'll get started. Can everyone hear me okay at the back? I know volume was an issue last year, so that's better? Okay. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Alvin Tedjo. I'm the City Councilor here in Ward 2. Want to thank everyone for coming to our annual community safety meeting. This is the third one we've had in 3 years. We also have several people here from Peel Regional Police, Gerald from Safe City Mississauga, and our MP, Charles Souza. Rudy was also invited, although he is hosting his own meeting next week, and you're welcome to go to that as well. And Peel Regional Police will also be there. A couple of just housekeeping things. You know, there's a bathroom just up the stairs over there. It is potentially a little warm in this room. It was warm last year as well. We're going to focus more on Q&A this year. Last year, there was a long presentation. We wanted to talk about policing in general and community safety in the community, but we wanted to make sure there was enough time for questions. And so a lot of the feedback we got was we needed way more time for questions. So we're just going to do a couple of quick introductory remarks. We're not going to do a presentation this year. But in order to submit your questions, I need you to go online on your phone, slido.com, enter that number that you see on the screen, and then put in your questions. And then we will go through those questions as quickly as we can. You can just tell me, and I can walk up to you, and you can put your hand up. And so we can try to open the windows if anybody knows how to do that. We were trying to open some of them. Yeah, some of them are open. So we'll alternate. We'll alternate between asking questions in person and the Slido for those who are online. So just a couple remarks for myself. I think you know how important community safety is to me and to our community. We're a very engaged community, which is why so many of you are here. We had hundreds of people last year as well. And we heard you. We heard you in terms of how concerned people were, and we were seeing the numbers. Over the last 3-4 years, crime was increasing significantly, especially in this area. We had a number of break-ins, we had a number of car thefts, and they were getting more and more violent. So that was very, very concerning. We have seen some great turnarounds this year, and I'll let PRP talk more about that. But just high level, year over year, from when we met at this exact moment last year, we've had a 47% decrease in break-and-enters, and we've had a 38% decrease in car thefts. And so there are a couple of detectives here from the BEAR unit, which stands for Break and Enter and Auto Theft, BEAR T? BEAR Response, okay. And they'll talk about why that is. We also invested heavily in resourcing Peel Regional Police. One of the numbers that you heard us talk about last year was cop to pop, the number of police officers for the population. We were very behind. We were about 600 officers behind 3 years ago when I was elected. 2 years ago, we added 125. This year, we added 300. And this was a huge success for Peel Regional Police to be able to hire that many new officers. They needed more training, they needed more equipment, they needed more room at the college, and we got all of that done this year, and that has led to significantly more boots on the ground. Immediately during this meeting last year, we had an increase of 33% of patrols. We created the BEAR unit, which is now doing significant work, and we've also had major projects, and I'll let the superintendent talk about that, like Project Ghost, which targeted organized crime that was doing a lot of the break-and-enters and recruiting people to do a lot of the car thefts, and that's been a huge success. We do know that more needs to be done. We are lower this year, but that doesn't mean that we're still not being vigilant in terms of fighting crime and preventing it as much as possible. So this year you're going to see another budget proposal that's going to hire another 175 officers at the region to get us fully back in line with the rest of our municipalities, and we'll be caught up in terms of our cop to pop ratio, which is an effort that is significant and will certainly, I think, have shown significant results here. But this isn't an isolated thing. We do need more collaboration with every order of government. We've been working with the MPP's office and the provincial government. They need to appoint more judges. They need to have more room in some of their jails. There's issues as well with bail and bail reform, and that's why Charles Souza is also here, and he'll speak to that next as well. So we're going to get to the questions as quickly as I can, but I'm going to let Charles say a few words here. Thank you.
Yeah, not yet. I guess I'll put the slideshow on. No. Folks, thank you. I'm sorry I wasn't here last year. I know it was a very contentious meeting. It's very important. It's something that I care about deeply, obviously, because I live here. I got my children grew up in this very area in St. Christopher's and Lauren Park. And I grew up here in Lakeview in Clarkson. So we've been here for about 40 years right here in this neighborhood. And I'm well aware of the concerns that we have. Many of you have talked to me about them. Home invasions are the ones that really scare me. The auto thefts and the other things, I understand how frustrating it is because everyone is being affected in my family as well. But it's home invasions and violence. And that is the scary part that we all feel and fear in our neighborhoods. So thanks to the police officers and others, they're taking a very concerted effort in terms of trying to diminish and minimize that threat. Now, the federal government does a lot of things that we can do to provide for safety and security. RCMP, we've elevated the number of RCMP officers to over 1,000. We've invested heavily in border security. There is international ring of crime that's creating some of the havoc here in our community, especially when it comes to auto theft. We recognize that there's a bigger issue at stake than just the young kids that are creating the crime. They themselves are being utilized for that issue. We talk a lot about bail, and I get it. I get the fact that people like to deflect blame to somebody, but we're in this together. We have now issued 3 or 4 different bail reforms since 2000, in the last 4 years, all with the intent to try to provide for greater reverse onus on those criminals so that they themselves are not let out. But more importantly, even Bill C-75, which was there to provide for the youth element, violent crimes, gun crimes, home invasions, auto theft, Those repeat offenders are infuriating to everyone. And the administration of the law is done by the province. The judges that are appointed are by the province. The justice of the peace are by the province. The jails are by the province. Even the police officers and those on the beat are run by the province through the municipalities. But that doesn't mean that the federal government doesn't have a play here. So we're trying to facilitate greater funding and transfers to the provinces to ensure that our communities are safe. And that's certainly part of the work that was put in the budget. More importantly, though, is the tremendous amount of work that we have by the officers on the ground. Those judges, the law is clear. The law is crystal clear. It just has to be enforced. In order for those judges to enforce the law, they have to recognize that just because the jails are full and the administration is full and the delays are causing some of the problems, that should never allow for repeat offenders. So I'm not going to say any more. We have a lot of stuff that we want to talk about. I can certainly go through the list of things that we're doing, but what I do want us all to feel is safe in our own homes. I mean, growing up as a kid, I never locked the door. I always went through it. Even to this day, I tend not to because I feel safe. But maybe it's just me wanting to feel safe because my wife doesn't. And she's very concerned, as are you, about the safety of our home and our kids. So especially when I'm not there as often as I should, because even tonight I got to go back to Ottawa. But I didn't want to miss this today. I didn't want to miss this today because I want you to know that we're in this together, and I'll do my utmost alongside all the levels of government to try to provide for that safety. Thank you.
Thanks, Charles. I'm going to let Superintendent Cawley, Josh Cawley, come up and introduce his team here as well. Josh.
Good evening, everybody. How are y'all doing? Good, good. I appreciate the opportunity for us to be here once again. Truly, it's an opportunity for me to, again, introduce myself, have an opportunity to answer questions, try to, I'm not going to say eliminate, but alleviate some of the concerns. I don't want to stand up here and celebrate that our numbers are down, because if you remember what I said last year, one is one too many. So this isn't an exercise where I want to, stand up and say, oh yeah, the B&E numbers are going down and everything else, because there's still some work to do. And I will touch on a little bit of our stats. I really don't want to go because I want to get into the questions. I want to introduce part of our team. So we've got Melanie Kelly, who is our community liaison officer. For some who's had an opportunity to email our office, she is extremely responsive. She's the brains behind the division, myself as well. So if there are any questions from the community, she's a huge help and a huge asset. From our Bear unit, we've got Matt Hembrough, who's part of our B&E team. And then we've got Brent. Yeah, there won't be any slides, but I can give you the spelling of the names afterwards, absolutely. Nope, because I'm going to talk about it and we're going to answer questions, because that's what you all wanted. Okay, well, it'd also be faster if I can continue talking. So let me just get through this, and then we can do that, okay? We've got Brent Evelyn from our auto theft unit, and then we've also got Gerald the Dad from Safe City Mississauga, who's part of our team. We work very closely together, and so it's just an extremely important partnership. So again, our numbers are down. Yes, they're down. That's great. Some of the things I just want to go over real quick. We still have some of those who are victims of break-and-enters. Believe it or not, the method of entry are unlocked doors, open windows. We talk about that being probably the number one thing you need to do. And so I'm not here to ridicule people, but I'm here to remind you, this is 2025. Unfortunately, we cannot continue to live the way that I grew up with my parents and everything else. We have to do our part to secure our property. So when we talk about lights on, proper, and I'm going to say this because we were talking about it today, and I've told my parents as well this morning. In this day and age, everyone should have an alarm system. It's not going to stop a break and enter, but it's a deterrent. At the same time, when we talk about, and it's Black Friday weekend, so there are a whole bunch of sales on. So, is an alarm going to stop an entry? Probably not, but what it does, it's an audible, right? So it notifies your neighbors that there's something going on. It gives a little bit of peace of mind. The technology is so great that, you get a notification, you're on your phone, you're seeing what's going on, you can call 911. We're going to talk about that just in a minute, because I also want to talk about some of the things that we've done post-budget to allow for better response time. Some of the things that we've done at the division that you all should know about and have a little bit of comfort. So again, the methods, we do get smashed windows, all those, but the unlocked doors and windows, they have to stop. That's, for those who were here last year, you heard me say crime are 3 parts: victim, criminal, and opportunity. And if we just take away that opportunity, we minimize being a victim. So that's just an important piece that I want to make sure that everybody has in their back pocket.
Quick question.
Absolutely.
Anybody in the force that would provide home assessment for security? Is that a service you provide?
So we do what's called a SEPTED. It's and forgive me, it's going to be a crime prevention through environmental design. And so what that is, thank you everybody. What that is not so much the alarm. We don't come in and actually say, okay, you should have this here and there, but we'll give you external environmental design. So lighting, bushes, stuff like that. Absolutely. Yeah. What we would like to do, just to be able to we would do it as a community. So if there was a street, we would go through that way. I hate to put Melanie on the spot, but Melanie also does that as well. The brains, that's her department. So we'll share that information as well. But I'll be honest with you, and I'm not. This is not me selling Ring. I'm just going to talk about for what's in my house. Ring alarm is probably the easiest because it's all just plug and play, attaches to your Wi-Fi. I find the app is really good. There's so many different ones, so please, I'm not selling Ring by any means, but it's affordable and it works. You set off the alarm, it's an audible that goes out. We talked about this last year, and I know Safe City Mississauga is a very big proponent of this. There was a program where if you heard an alarm, we would ask the neighbors to start an alarm as well. So if you heard a car alarm, set off your car alarm. If there's a house alarm, set off the alarm. And it's actually, it's proven that when that happens, people are running out. They did some kind of like not morale tests, but they did some tests on it, and so they were showing people taking off when there's, bringing attention to them. So that audible alarm makes a huge difference. It also notifies your neighbors and everybody else. Not only that, we'll get into it because I know there are a ton of questions. When officers are on patrol, and I'm going to say this now because there's a bunch of questions, we don't see the officers. We don't see the officers. Our break and enter unit and our auto theft unit and our CIB, that's our Criminal Investigations Bureau, that do a ton of proactive, are in unmarks, and this is actually clean for them. They don't look like police officers, and we don't want that. Not that and I get there's 2 types. There's proactive presence, which deters when they see a cruiser, but we know, I'll be honest, there's not enough cars in Peel Regional Police to have a car in every street corner. So a lot of it is also trying to catch people in the act or trying to gather intelligence. And so you won't see police presence, but I can assure you they're there. Part of the budget increase in the budget, what we've been able to do with Project 300, which is hiring 300 officers. 2026, we're hiring another 175 officers. What it's allowed us to do is put boots on the ground. And when I say that, I can speak for 11 Division. The number, if I can say 2025, and it may not seem like a big number, but we've added 65 officers alone in 2025. When you put that out, spread out to the 4 shifts, I promise you that's a huge number, because what that is 65 cruisers, additional cruisers that are driving around in the different areas. When I left pardon me? Yeah, that's 11 Division. Yeah, only in, 11 Division is, the boundaries are from the Lakeshore up to Derry Road. So that's 65 cars for 11 Division proper, which is, no. But what it is adding cars down here as well. Like I'm able to spread them out. So we are able to put more cars. When we left here last year, I had said I wanted to increase the numbers that are assigned to, we call this the Lakeshore. The 1 area is what we call it. It's just in different zones. And we've done that. So last year was 33% increase. We're up to 50% increase, and we've got a few more initiatives that I'll explain afterwards. Actually, I'll explain it to you now while we're talking about it before we get into questions. So another initiative we started up, we've already heard about, is our BEAR, our break-in or auto theft response unit. That was a net new unit that we were able to create following the budget. Their specific detailed goal, job is to not only obviously respond to break-inners and investigate those crimes, but it's to come up with proactive measures, projects, how we gather intel, how we can learn about the criminals and stop them from there. What they're also doing, and I believe some of you may have had them knocking on the doors. You guys were, was it last week? Monday, handing out flyers, and I loved it because some people were questioning if they were actually police. Good on ya. Like I said, you know, they don't look like it, but and I appreciate you guys asking those questions because that's what we've talked about before. But I want them out there being proactive, making sure that they're giving crime prevention tips in addition to gathering evidence. Also saying, hey, here's a couple of ideas with that. So they do. They have a badge. Yeah, well, I mean, listen, some people, if you don't see a uniform, you get nervous, and I appreciate it. So, you know, and I appreciate those questions. Those are important. Yeah, exactly. Well, we want them to be a little bit, you know, inconspicuous and casual so that they can actually go out and do some intelligence gathering, because that's an important piece of investigating break-in enters and auto theft. It's not just being in a cruiser. So the BEAR unit is a big addition for us, another big asset. What we've also done is, because we've added more cars on the ground, we've done it's not called Pure Patrol, but we've added additional cars that are driving around strictly if they see a garage open. It's basically community contact. So they're in the areas, and it's not just in Lorne Park. So I'm not gonna say that you guys have got cars dedicated here. It's for the division. You will start seeing them, especially with during this time of the year, where they're just gonna be driving around and just stopping and having conversations. Hey, you know, this, and this. Have you thought about this? And that's it. But it's additional presence within your community, and that's what it's all about. Okay, before I go on, because I want to open up for questions, Mel, is there anything you want to add that we've been doing? Not to put you on the spot.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Cllr. Tedjo, for having us this evening. I know there's a number of faces in the audience that I've had the pleasure of meeting already. And just to add a little bit more to the crime prevention through environmental design, we have been out, myself and Gerald, to your homes, and we've gone through that. So certainly that's something you can reach out to us, and that's going to continue to help keep your homes and your communities safe. On the back table, we have provided the Home Security Challenge. So if you decide you don't want to maybe have us come, but you are curious about how your home is doing from a security standpoint, you can take that challenge home. Simple yes and no. Does your home have these things in place? And it's not designed to cost you a lot of money, but just to look at some of that natural surveillance that you could implement. I'll pass it over to Bear in just a moment to explain a little bit more about what they are doing, but there are these pamphlets at the back as well, which go with their unit, and it's to create more education and more awareness. They're at the back. They are QR codes, and then there are emails for direct contacts, as well as tips for keeping your vehicle safe, stats and things like that that you can access. So really helpful information. Also, I am running low, but there are my business cards. So, and if you don't end up getting one and you'd like my information, Cllr. Tedjo does have that as well. Anything that you see going on in your community, it's a great, take that card, touch base with me, and we can have conversations. I've had conversations with a lot of you, helping to navigate some of the things that are taking place. Also, Gerald will add that in, but working together as a community, we see numbers decrease because you're looking out for each other. I know a lot of you are a part of community chat groups, WhatsApp, just remembering to be the eyes and ears on the street. Yeah, there we go.
Evening, everyone. So I think I've already been introduced, but so I'm Gerald the Dad representing Safe City Mississauga. So we're a crime prevention agency formed by your council in 1992, and our primary mandate is crime prevention. So our biggest program is the Neighborhood Watch program, and I know we have a few Neighborhood Watch members here as well who can attest to the effectiveness of the program. Basically, we'll work to connect your communities, make sure everyone gets to know each other, sharing information and being that eyes and ears on the street for not just the police, but also, again, for each other. So we work to organize those as part of the Neighborhood Watch program. We also do the crime prevention through environmental design assessment of your street, and so that's when we'll actually tour your neighborhoods with Peel Regional Police, with counselors, whoever might be able to just shed light on some of the issues in your community and identify what are some of those environmental features that might be encouraging the risk of crime in your neighborhoods, and how can we address that, whether that's things that you can be doing as an individual home, or things that we can work with a counselor and the city on to improve, like lighting, for example. So these are all part of the Neighborhood Watch program. Again, that's our flagship program there. At Safe City, we also offer youth life skills training, hate crime education, and even seniors frauds and scams and seniors bullying presentations as well. So we really occupy that education space for crime prevention, but we're happy to also address any other questions that you might have about any of our other programs or any of the other crime prevention issues that might be on your mind tonight. Okay?
What's your last name?
A dad.
A dad?
Yeah.
And
I'm not a father, though, but
Safe City is the name of your program?
I had to put it in there. I'm sorry. That's like a reflex. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Safe City. What's Safe City?
Safe City, Mississauga. So we're a crime prevention. Sorry, I know I talk fast, guys. Sorry. Crime prevention. So we're a crime prevention agency. We're a nonprofit that's funded by the city. Yeah. Yep. Yes, everything's on our website. Yeah.
So Gerald's from Safe City Mississauga, which is a separate not-for-profit, but it's funded through the city of Mississauga that works with Peel Regional Police. We've done a number of subheads with a number of the resident association streets that want to start a neighborhood watch. We actually just walk up and down the street, and they point out things that you can change on your property or on other people's property. And then if we need to fix a light or trim some trees, then my office takes that back, and then we do a number of those things. So if you haven't started a neighborhood watch, please do. Okay, I'm going to start with the questions. I see you over there, but I'm going to get to a couple of the ones. I'm going to tell you the sources. A number of you submitted questions ahead of time when you signed up for the meeting, and I have those printed in front of me. I also have the Slido in my hand here, and I will also come to you here in the room. But there are a lot of questions. I didn't realize how many people already submitted questions. I'm going to try to theme them together for some of them. Why is the alleged increased police presence not visible in our community? Can you define what increased police presence means? In Clarkson, many residents still report not seeing a police presence. Has the city or police considered more proactive solutions to protect neighborhoods, for example, patrols, deterrence programs, or alternative models?
So I touched on that one earlier, but again, I just want to double down on, I was going to actually ask a question. If anyone's willing, anyone who here submitted questions similar about the police presence? Did anyone in this room ask that question about seeing? Okay, because what I wanted to ask is what for you all would be I guess what would be a standard that you would like to see when we talk about an officer in your community? Okay. Okay. And thank you. Yeah, absolutely. For sure. So just for the folks online, when I asked that question, the response was to see a cruiser or a police officer come through the community every so often. They don't have to stop. It's not for a report, but just a visible presence. And I appreciate it. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. So what I will say is part of our initiative and part of what we've been doing, we do have more cars on the ground. Obviously, this area is a large area. I can never tell you when a car is going to be on your street or driving through, but I can assure you that it's happening. But I just want to double down. What we have done is also increase the unmarked vehicles that are coming through. So I just want you to understand that that's a strategy for us, because again, when we talk about everyone sees a cruiser everyone drives proper, everyone decides to go the other way. Like it's great because it's a deterrent. I am not saying it's not a deterrent, but there's also times where we want to gather information, gather intelligence, and so there has been an increase. Do I want to see more for you guys and for this area? Absolutely, and we will get there 100%. What that looks like when we talk about every so often, I can't give you that number. But if you said to me, if you live on, let's call it Indian Road, just, it's a main throughway, and you say to me that you have not seen a cruiser in weeks, then that's a problem. And that is an absolute problem that I want to know, because then we're not doing our job. And so that's the kind of information that if you guys say, if you can confidently say that you haven't seen a cruiser on your street in your neighborhood for an extended period of time, please let me know. If you go ahead, ma'am. What's the area? Yep. Right. Yep. Through the parks. So the question was just in relation to our parks, the folks being afraid to go, and I'd just say Jack Darling Park, but being out at night going through the pathways. So yes, we do have our CERT officers, our community incident response. There are bike officers. Like, we don't drive our cruiser. Well, I used to back in the day, but we don't do that anymore. It's not a good thing. But our bike officers are going through parks. You can, and I'm just going to say, you can appreciate how many trails there are throughout the whole division, trying to spread through. But we do focus on the larger parks, Jack Darling being one, summertime. Now in the winter, I will say the bikes aren't on the road, and so that makes it a little bit more difficult for them to be through the pathways. But I will take that back, with the additional cars. What I'd like to see are maybe some foot patrols. You may not see them, but at least that they're in the area, that's what would be important.
Can I make an observation?
Sure.
Please tell your officers to stop parking in the Mississauga Golf Club parking lot and meeting. If they're going to do that, do it at a Tim Hortons or someplace where they're visible.
We are not doing it at Tim Hortons. We have already got that stigma. I'll go somewhere else, but I hear what you're saying. Yeah, we don't want Tim Hortons. No, give me something else. And so what's funny is when you talk about, and that's a great point, and I appreciate it. So the point was about talking about where officers meet, do their notes. It was Mississauga Golf Course, but why are we not doing them in other places within the community? It's a great point. And that's something that, from management, we say to our people, if you're going to be visible in places that matter. And so, is a golf course, there are victims. There actually are quite a few golf courses that are being broken in. That's part of the strategy, but I appreciate that.
Okay, I'm going to do some of the Slido ones, and then I'm going to come to you, sir. So this is a quick one. Why doesn't the City of Mississauga charge for parking at Jack Darling and Rattray Marsh? I believe this measure would reduce the surplus of visitors and help identify vehicle owners that come to our area. We are working on a fee for parking in Mississauga. Right now, parking is free. It's accessible. We want to find a balance. I think there is a way to have a small fee that could limit hours in terms of how long people are allowed to park. Right now, it's basically 18 hours. But if you did, say, $6 for 3 hours or something like that, I think that's not unreasonable. And so we are working on a parking plan to introduce paid parking at some of our destination parks. Now, this one came up a lot in different forms. What is your view on communities hiring independent security companies to patrol neighborhoods? Know that there have been some reports of companies wasting time, but others offer GPS tracking. Several homeowners have resorted to hiring private overnight security. What is being done so residents don't feel forced to do this? I'm going to let PRP answer this in a second, but I will also say, this is what we pay our taxes for. This is their job. This is their response. They are responsive. Can we improve on that? Absolutely, and they're going to keep working on that. I've had some serious concerns about private security. I don't believe they're effective. They can't really do anything about it other than call the police. But two, I have heard of some private security harassing neighbors and residents who are walking their dog through the neighborhood, including in our parks and on our trail, even the Nine Creeks Trail. And I don't think that's appropriate. So I'll turn it over.
And so this was asked last year, and I gave a pretty candid response, what I felt, and the councillor nailed it. obviously your tax dollars are going to policing, that we want to own that responsibility. But again, we can't be everywhere all the time. And so I've lightened my tone a little bit to say, I think for all of our residents, you have to do what you believe is going to provide you comfort and safety for you and your family. And so as a community, and I can't remember if I mentioned this last year, but a good friend of mine actually they were a victim of a B&E. I'm out in Burlington. 2 B&Es, and so they have a security officer who sits in their driveway from 1 in the morning till 7 in the morning in their driveway. Their neighbors are getting free security when we talk about the visibility. Is it a deterrent? Well, they haven't been B&E'd since. Is that the reason why? I won't say yes or no, but they have told me that this is what provides them comfort. It lets them sleep at night. And so my response has changed to say it's what you guys feel comfortable doing. I know I've heard of arguments between neighbors because they say, well, why am I paying for security and you're getting free? And if other people don't want to pay, people are hiring security to do mobile. Like the councillor said, they're not going to jump in anything. They're going to call 911. Can I tell you that the criminals see a security and continue on? I can't tell you that. For those here who maybe have private security or have that, if you've seen a noticeable difference or decrease in incidents, I would say you can speak to that. So all to say, I'm not going to tell you not to do it. But what I am going to tell you is I want to own that responsibility from a public safety, that it's our officers that are keeping you safe and responding to calls as necessary.
Thank you, Josh. I'm going to come down here and hopefully not trip. Sir?
Thanks, Alvin. So first thing, if you could just your staff, when we signed up, there was an email. If you could send out who's all here with the contact information, that'd be the first kind of step, that everybody would then have that. Superintendent, the question to you then is, you talked about when your officers are doing notes on that kind of thing, they would go and park someplace. Could you not deploy them on a regular basis in different areas to do their note-taking as part of what they regularly do, so that there are more police officers seen, right? Because we talked about the deterrent of seeing a police car. It's a huge one. If you're driving down the 401, you see a police car, the OPP, you're going to slow down. So in our part of the neighborhood, and we're on off of Lorne Park Road, I haven't seen a police car come through our neighborhood in I don't know how long. I don't know if my wife has seen one. But if they could be deployed regularly to say, when you're doing your notes, you're going to be here this week, or you're going to be there that week, that you can then spread it around, that more are being seen.
Thanks.
Appreciate that. So, and just so you know, the way that our cars are deployed within 11 Division, there's zones. So the Lakeshore, like I said earlier, was the one zone. So they are assigned to that area. When they're doing notes, they're not going to the station unless they have an actual arrest. And I appreciate that. That's something that I'm going to take back to just reinforce, to say, folks, the golf course is not the right place. And I've actually told them I don't want to see you in the parking lot of a Plaza or Tim Hortons, legit. But if they can go sit on the street, that's a great point, and I'll take that back. I appreciate that. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Pardon me? How many cruisers? Like police cars? Well, it all depends on the shift or whatever, but I'd say there's on 5. Yeah. 5 in a 24-hour, 6. It's a lot of cars, but we're a very busy organization responding to calls. So that's why, unfortunately, they're tied up. And I'll touch on some of the other things after we get through some questions of how we're marked, all marked. Those frontline cruisers, those are all assigned zone cars, or what we call them. They're assigned to the areas. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's in addition to the CERT team. That's in addition to the Bear unit. That's in addition to these specific things that are working on specific challenges.
I want to say this: the Bear unit was named by our officers. So don't laugh. That's not what my idea. That was their name. It is a cool name.
Okay, a bit more questions for the politicians. So Rudy was invited. He was here last year. He did address a number of you who were in the room last year. I think because he had another meeting tonight and he has his own community safety meeting. That's the reason he's not here. But he was also invited. Charles is here. He was obviously unable to come last year, but we appreciate him being here today. And there's a few questions related to the federal government. One, can you speak on the Youth Justice Act and if the Youth Criminal Justice Act, and whether or not the federal government is planning to make any updates? And do you have a reaction or opinion to Premier Ford's recent bail reform law? And also, can you also expand on your comment on judges? Sorry, I know there's three things, but I'm going to give you the mic, so yeah, here we go.
Any effort to try to curb repeat offenders and keep people in jail, keep the bad guys in jail, is good. And if the province is putting forward, I mean, right now people have to post bail, they got to do what they have to do. He's putting into legislation that they're required to actually pay it before they get bail. So he's going to have to fight the legalities of that. There's going to be a constitutional debate about it, but I think it's great that we do many efforts, and kind of wish he had done it long ago if that was the case. Anything to enforce, and we've done something similar in that we're doing reverse onus. So now it's not a given that you're going to get bail. You got to justify why you are allowed. So in other words, right now there's always these deals that are being made before they even get into courts. We're trying to avoid that. So we're making it more difficult for people to get out of jail, but it's still up to the judges. So the other question was, what does that mean? Well, we have now appointed many more federal Superior Court judges and so forth, but they don't manage these issues. The majority of the crimes and the reason so many people are frustrated, including the officers, is because they come before the courts. The courts are over inundated. The judges aren't able to deal effectively with the issues, and there's few of them. They haven't been reappointed. There have been few judges put in place. There's been few GPs put in place, which are done by the province. There's overflowing of the jails and prisoners and conditions. The Ombudsman was very critical of the provincial, Ontario province specifically, in dealing with matters with regards to administration of the criminals and putting them in jail. And so as a result of that report, now the province is taking greater incentives to try to foster it. And the federal government is going to do its part. Like, we're going to try to facilitate, because we're all in this together. Like, I'm not trying to deflect blame to anybody here. I'm trying to find ways that we can all feel safe. And so when it comes to the administrative of the legal system, it's a provincial matter, I get it, but I recognize how important it is for the federal government to ensure that the safety measures that we put in place with the RCMP, dealing with FBI, dealing with the international crime syndicates, ensuring that the borders are secure, ensuring that fentanyl is not coming our way, the millions and millions of dollars that we've instituted in the last budget in regards to this thing are being put in place. That'll help. It'll help with the scanning of the auto sector, of the autos, and the logistics that are going through the trains and on boats. All of that will minimize and preclude some of the desires to cheat, to steal, and to have home invasions. These folks know where some of those crime rings are, because they're dealing with the FBI and other international law enforcement. The other one was around youth. What we've done to try to protect youth victims and protect their rights, because the Constitution requires them, especially those under a certain age, who are also being used by criminals. I'll tell you a little quick story, and I apologize, it won't take long. Our neighbor was broken into some years back. My wife was breastfeeding, with the baby in her arms, watching these kids break into the house next door. She called the police. They reacted quickly. They caught 11 people that day breaking into our neighbor's house. It's a lot of people, and they had high-tech equipment. This is going back a number of years. What really infuriated her was when she had to go to court. And there she was with all these young kids. They were all from They weren't from Mississauga. They were all from the east end of town. They all came in, but they were ringleaders. They were adults managing that process. And she had to look at these kids in the eyes, and they kept asking her, where do you live? And she doesn't want to give out that information. She's like, she wants security, she wants safety too. So we had to be mindful of the impact it has on our communities. But she felt a sense of sadness for these young kids who are being victimized themselves. And that's why this Youth Act has been put in place to try to foster ways to ensure that we enable them to succeed. And the bad guys are the ringleaders. The bad guys are the adults. So I don't want to go too much more into that issue, but I do want to reinforce this. All levels of government have a role to play, and all of us have to try to work cooperatively to enable us to feel that safety.
Thank you, Charles. So we're going to try to, I will get, so there has been a couple of comments that there are people shouting out. There are people online as well, and we want to respect the room. I will recognize as many hands as I can, but I will also recognize, we're going to go through the sheets, and we're going to go through what people have submitted, and I will come to try and recognize you. Please don't shut out. It sort of disrupts the flow. If 50% of stolen vehicles are recovered, how does that align with vehicle theft solvency rate of only about 3%? What are your thoughts on solving break-in enters that have happened in Lorne Park? What % of cases have been solved? Why aren't you able to solve more B&Es? According to Peel Crime Map, the % of solved B&Es is negligible. So these are all based on the solvency rate, so I'll ask our detective constables to come up and respond to both break-in enters and auto theft solvency.
Thanks, everyone. I'm Detective Hambrough from our new Bear unit, which was just created in August of this year. Here's Constable Brent Eveland. He works with me in the unit. As the superintendent mentioned, I'll just take a quick opportunity to introduce the unit to you, and I'm happy to address those stats. But as he mentioned, we did have a part in naming that unit, and that's because we are very proud to be part of it. We're very excited for this new unit. The unit is made up of officers that previously investigated break-in enters and autos amongst their general CIB or Criminal Investigation Bureau platoons. But this new unit has allowed us to refocus our efforts specifically on those break-in enters, on those auto thefts, and gives us a larger pool of officers to put towards those investigations. It remains extremely important to us, the component of getting out into the community with our surveillance and getting our plainclothes vehicles into the Lakeshore community to be present, especially at the times of day that we've identified where there's an issue with these increased break-in enters. I know there's an increased awareness of green space, rear door break-in enters. So we're trying to target and keep stats on when those are happening and get our plainclothes officers out at those specific times to do additional patrols. You may not notice us, but you may notice an increased presence of those 11 CERT officers. As it relates to that stat of 3% solvency versus the 50% of recovered vehicles, I'll just give you a quick example. If we have 100 vehicles stolen, on average, we're going to get 50 of those back. Out of those 50, we're going to be able to solve about 3% based on our current stats. And part of the creation of the Bear unit is to address that, is to keep moving that forward and building that capacity up to solve more. When we created this unit, we asked for some things in terms of increased manpower, increased people in the unit to resolve these cases, and we were given it. We've now got double the number of officers working on these cases than we had previously, and it's showing immediate success. We've had multiple arrests, both in auto thefts and break-in enters. Just this week, we've identified a group responsible for break-in enters across the entire GTA, and warrants have gone out. It's an active investigation, I can't get into more detail, but we are making huge strides and we are making progress. The 3% number, those are the cars we recover, or those are the cases we solve from those recovered cars. The way we solve those is through DNA, through fingerprints left in the cars. It also comes from intelligence-based policing, which this new unit has given us a huge opportunity to invest more in. That means every time we do get someone in our custody, we're debriefing them. We're able to get information from the people arresting in a lot of cases that leads to other arrests. So, well, those numbers, that 3%, if I heard that number, I would not be impressed by that whatsoever. And I'm not. I know my partner and I, we both know that, but we also know that as this new unit, we're excited to tackle that and to keep improving upon that number. Anything to add? No, you hit it on the head.
Thank you, Detective. Okay, so let me just get a quick show of hands of who has a question in the room, who hasn't submitted one on Slido, so that I can then approach them. You've had a few questions. I will get to you, though. I'm going to start over here.
Thank you. My question's more for the police. For people that are here tonight, a lot of you live in the neighborhood. Some of you who don't have small kids attending the local schools may not know this, but we've had an incident of a predator in the area, 3 separate incidents involving Hillcrest and White Oaks. So, break into our house, steal our cars, do not touch our children. This hits a little close to home because one of them was one of my daughter's friends. I would like to know what's being done in the area. We're not seeing cruisers. Are there unmarked cars around? Is there police presence happening related to this incident? And I've heard that it's not one man in particular. It was 2 separate male descriptions that were given. And to my knowledge, some of the other schools in the area were not notified. And I just want to know what you're doing. Are these people sex traffickers? Do we know anything? Do you have better descriptions you could give to the community? Any information you have on that you can give to people in the community? We're all sitting here. This happened on this street. It happened around the corner, and it happened a few blocks down. Like, this is not far away. This is in our area. And we're really worried. And I have a daughter the same age, and I just want to know if you have any more information.
Thank you. A similar question was also submitted, so Superintendent.
Thank you. I appreciate the question. So I'm going to personalize it even more. One of the 3 is my brother's girlfriend's daughter. So you can imagine that I, as you know, I'm obviously going to be extremely concerned and everything else. So regardless of the personal connection, I just want to let you know a few things and to just take down a little bit of your concern. So we had the first 2. We've notified the schools. We do our job. I can't control what the schools and how they spoke or talk to each other, because I can tell you that one school that she went to, there was no letter issued to the parents. So the parents from that one school, I won't throw the school under the bus, but they just made the decision to not put it out there. And so we can't control that. We've got a full team that's investigating this. We are very confident that this is unfortunately a vagrant individual, homelessness. It's not a sex trafficker, a deviant. Just from the information that we've gathered, we think we've identified him. We don't put that out until I don't want to put out false information until we are confident we have the person in. But I can assure you they're working on it right now. They've done video canvases. They've got the information that they deem necessary to move forward. So just from the incidents, just so everyone knows, no kids were touched. What this person was doing was just following them, not communicating, but just being very creepy, which is a concern. Don't get me wrong, I'm not downplaying it. If it was one of my kids, I'd be in the park right now myself. So, but I just want to make sure you know that there were no kids that were harmed. It is a very scary situation. As soon as we have the individual in custody, to bring in, and I'm also going to say this, just from a criminal code standpoint, that is not a criminal charge to be following kids. If he's taking pictures, which he's not, that obviously goes into a different area. But nevertheless, we want to identify him, we want to interview him, we want to understand what's going on. And if it is somebody who actually needs some help, we want to try to get him that through some of our wraparound services. So we're on it, all to say we're on it. And the second we have information, we'll share it with not only the community, but the schools in hopes that they update that letter to let you all know.
And I know it's hearsay, but I was told there's two separate descriptions of race of these men.
Yeah, we got that information. So just the follow-up was just that it was two different descriptions. Actually, it's not, and we get that quite often. You know, you get people in a scared situation who that's their not story, I shouldn't say their description, but we're confident it's the same individual. Yeah. Thank you.
Go ahead. Do you want to? Yeah, go ahead.
Just the three. Just to add another piece too about who is working on it. So we all come together in partnership. So we have our Criminal Investigations Bureau, also matched with our Youth Crime Investigative Bureau, and then our Community Intervention Response Team. So it's not just like one officer got this and is investigating when they have time. It is a huge planned operation and tasked details of what they're doing so that the investigation can be closed. Okay? Hello.
Sneaking up, sorry. So this question is about response times. These questions are about response times. What is being done to improve police response times? For example, when my house was broken into at 1:15 a.m., no one came until 11 a.m. I called 911 because somebody was looking through my windows. A car with dark windows and blurred plastic on the license was parked early in the hours of the morning. Then the police said, because the car's not stolen, they did not send someone. Neighbors do not feel safe. And why did it take 8 hours to respond to a break-in? Why is the response time still so long?
All great questions. And again, part of our initiatives part of the strategies that we've been able to move forward on, right now we're full of acronyms. So if we do acronyms, I apologize, I'll spell it out. But right now we've started an alternate response unit, AR cars. What the purpose are, and just to give a little bit of background, calls are dispatched by priority. And in Mississauga, in the region of Peel, we are well over 1 million calls a year. Down in Mississauga alone, and I think I spoke about this last in 11 Division alone, we're about 160 calls in a 24-hour period. Domestics, violent calls, mental health, all kinds of different where cars are being used up. This strategy is to put additional cars, so we've got 2 vehicles that are strictly responding to priority 3 and 4 calls. What those are would be say break and enter, where there's no suspect information. You get home, your windows are smashed in, there's no harm. Obviously, you want the police there immediately, but from a priority scale, we need the officers to be responding to priority 1s and 2s. What that does do, and what it was doing when we didn't have the resources that we require, was pushing those priority calls to a longer hold. 8 hours, 10 hours, that's actually not too bad, because I can tell you there were times where I would come in from a Monday and there were calls sitting on from Friday, 48 hours plus, completely unacceptable. We've owned that to say that is absolutely not right. That's not the level of service that we want to provide. And so we've been able to do some additional strategies. These AR cars, their goal is, or what they do is they go out and just respond to 3s and 4s. What it also does on the flip side is for priority 1s and 2s, it allows the zone cars that I talked about earlier to have a quicker response to those priority calls. So they don't have to worry about the paper calls, the calls that will take some time, break-and enters, auto thefts and all that. They get to respond to the priority calls. We've got dedicated units doing that. So all that to say is you will start seeing a better response time. Is it going to be perfect? Not yet. Is it going to be perfect ever? I don't know, but it's going to get better. And that's my commitment to you all, to say you will start seeing a difference.
Thank you, Superintendent. So a couple of questions on not just response time, but the response in terms of 911. So I'm going to talk about NG 911 for a quick second. So the question was more along the lines of, how long does it take to call 911, and then how effective or responsive 911 is. I will tell you that we instituted a new program. I think we piloted, we were the first ones in Canada, to use NG911, which is Next Generation 911. It's a new technology and it's a new way for our call takers who are highly trained to organize and filter through questions and through calls. And our average before this program was installed and this pilot was started last year was over a minute. So the average was you call 911 and you'd be on hold and you'd wait for over a minute. In some cases, it was 5, 6, 7 minutes. I told you, if you were here last year, my father fell off the roof. My brother called 911, and for 8 minutes, no one responded. Since we've installed NG911, the average wait time is now 12 seconds. So that is an incredible success story of Peel Regional Police and the call takers and the communications department leading the way to have better and more effective service. And this has led to those priority 1 calls being responded to even faster, right? And whether you need police, ambulance, or fire, that means all those responses are coming faster. Next question here, why don't we have a 13th division? Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say one thing. So I know people will say, well, 12 seconds is 12 seconds too long. And again, and I don't have the exact number. I actually was in comms when we started NG911. So you've got to think we deal with, if we call it 1.9 million calls, because we are the primary call center for fire, paramedics, the highway. So if there's something on the highway, it comes to us. So anything within the region, it comes to our communications, where we had, let's call it a staff of 30. Imagine trying to answer well over 1,000 calls in a 24-hour period, because those calls are also, you're on the phone getting information from people. So you're on the call for some time. You can't get off until a car gets there. And the wait times were absolutely ridiculous, completely unacceptable. I think that was our first time meeting when we were talking about your dad when I was in comms. And so all to say is 12 seconds is an absolutely unbelievable standard. That's not, I mean, that's the average. You call 911, they're picking up right away. I don't want to talk about our neighbors to the east of us, but it's a gong show over there. So the fact that we've implemented this technology, we are very proud that 12 seconds, and we're hoping to get to where you call and it's answered. But I just want to really reinforce that the 12 seconds, although still not perfect, is a great improvement.
Thank you. The next question about local policing. So for those that don't know, 11 Division obviously serves the west half of Mississauga, 12 Division serves the east half of Mississauga, and in Brampton it's 21 and 22 Division, and then we have 31 Division at the airport. Recently we've announced 2 new divisions opening up. 23 Division in North Brampton, and we'll get a 13th Division here in South Mississauga. So it'll be in and around the Port Credit area. It hasn't been 100% finalized in terms of the location, but it will be coming out soon. So that'll certainly increase response times here in the South as well. I will take another audience question. Sir.
Thank you. Before I start my question, I just want to give you a little background. I've been involved and a huge supporter of police all my life. Back in the 80s and 90s, I worked with the Ontario Police College. I worked with the Criminal Investigation Services in developing a witness protection program and lectured at the police college on that, and I lectured on intelligence. So I want you to know I'm totally in favor of what your fellow's doing, and I support the police 100%. Alvin, in your letter here that came out the other day, you say, as your counselor, I'm continuing to advocate for other budgetary offsets to minimize the cost to taxpayers. So I'm a taxpayer, I'm a homeowner for 53 years. People that rent here are also taxpayers. And I was in a meeting last night with the mayor, and we were talking about the fact that the police budget in Peel has gone up 82% in 6 years. The budget in Toronto has gone up 15%. The budget in the cost of living has gone up 16%, inflation, versus the 82%. In Peel, it happens that the majority of crime is in Brampton, and the majority of the budget monies are paid by Mississauga. So whenever it happens that something comes up about the police, Brampton are 100% supportive. Now, in our budget with the police department, we have no way of knowing what's in there, the way it works. And back a year ago, Councillor, the Mayor Parish proposed a motion that would allow the police budget to be presented to the provincial government to be audited, much like the city is now auditing its own operation. When that came up for a vote, all the Brampton members voted against it. You voted against it. And as someone who's trying to supposedly manage our costs to taxpayers and people like me who are on fixed incomes, how on earth could you not support a value for added budget analysis so that we could be sure that we're getting good value for our money? And it's also important to know that the City of Toronto have their budget audited each year, as does the City of Ottawa. And quite frankly, this ongoing increase, we're going to have another big one this year, is totally unmanageable.
Thanks for that. Happy to address those questions. Let's start by the Peel Police does have its own internal auditor, and they do manage and they do audit themselves the same way that the City of Mississauga and the Region of Peel audit themselves. So they do that. Just a quick primer on property taxes, right? 100% of property taxes, 47% of property taxes are regional taxes, 37% of property taxes that you pay are city taxes, and then 16% are schools. Okay, so I get to vote on two different budgets, one at the region and one at the city. Okay, and for those of you that remember, I ran for mayor and I said I wanted a 0% increase at the city, right? And that I had a plan to find a way to get us to 0% here in the City of Mississauga. Now, the Peel Police budget is proposed and created by the Peel Police Board, which is made up of provincial appointees and a representative from Brampton and Mississauga. Okay, the police board comes out together, they come up with what the demands are from the community, and in terms of the level of policing, we know we were very far behind. We were 600 police officers behind in our cop-to-pop ratio, and we were well underfunding our police system for the last several years. Now, that was before I got elected, and so what we were faced was a choice to increase that budget, approve that budget, or not, right? And so there's only two options. Either vote for the budget or don't. There is no sending it back, and we did send it back actually. We said, can you try to find more savings? But at the end of the day, the police budget is proposed by the police board, and the Region of Peel either says yes or no, and there's no modification to that, unfortunately. That's the system, and that's the way the act is written, right? And so understanding we had this same meeting with 500 people watching and listening, I committed to support the police budget last year in order to hire the police officers we needed to make our community safe. And I stand by that. And so when it came to the city budget, I continue to believe that we can find more efficiencies at the city. And I voted against Mayor Parish's strong mayor budget last year because it helped increase the property tax. Now it's 37 out of 100 and 47 out of 100, but every little bit helps. Okay? So that's my explanation for that. We are doing budget meetings right now. Tomorrow I'm going to the Region of Peel. I already have a motion on the table that reduces $12 million, and that's just the first budget meeting from the regional budget that I've proposed. And I'm gonna try to find as many savings opportunities as we can to delay projects if we can at the region and at the city to reduce the burden on taxes for our taxpayers here in this area. And I know you pay a lot of taxes, I pay them too. This is a very expensive area to live in terms of property taxes, and we want to make sure we get value for money. Now, we are getting the services that we're paying for, and I think that's true for other municipalities as well, right? So if you're gonna not fully fund your police services, that's the service that you're going to get. But I believe that we've done the right thing. We're paying for safety, and we're still trying to find savings in other places, and I will continue to do that.
Why did you vote against the budget being audited by the provincial government like Toronto do and Ottawa do?
So Mayor Parish's amendment was to not approve the budget and to only approve a 10% reduction from what the police had asked for. which would be voting against the police budget that was proposed by the police board.
So she's not telling me the truth.
There's just more details to it. She proposed not approving the police budget at the rate that the police board had presented.
She proposed that the budget would be audited by the provincial government. Totally separate issue.
So you have to defeat the budget in order to send it back to the province. And in any case that any municipality has ever defeated a police budget, the province has approved it.
Why don't you encourage the appeal board, the appeal police, to submit their budget to the provincial government on a voluntary basis, like Toronto do and like Ottawa do?
The police board is a pretty open and transparent place. The mayor was on the board. She did choose to resign from the board. I think it's important to be on the board to say your piece and to be part of the process to come up with a new budget. Now, they certainly heard the concerns, and this year's increase is significantly less than it was last year, but we're still trying to catch up, and we're trying to catch up from years of underfunding. Yep.
I would like to know whether you know about the street racing on the lake shore. And if you do know about it, what is being done about it?
Thank you. And we absolutely know about the vehicular, the terrible drivers, the street racing, not only on Lakeshore, Mississauga Road. I can go on and on with all the streets. So we have a dedicated traffic unit within our division, in addition to our road safety service, which is our centralized, and they identify problem areas, high risk areas where they put enforcement. And so is there enough of RSS in our traffic unit? Absolutely not. If I could have a car on all these major throughways, major streets for traffic enforcement, I would do that. We're not there yet. So are we aware? Absolutely. We do our best to try to curb. I don't have our traffic stats, but I can tell you that our enforcement is 100%. We've gone away from the education. People have been driving long enough. Loud mufflers, all that kind of stuff. We do have teams, Project Erase, that we do throughout the summer where we're dedicated, and it's a joint forces operation where we target street racing, loud vehicles, all that. So we're on it. Is there more to do? Absolutely, but we are aware of Lakeshore for sure. So the follow-up was that it starts from midnight to 3 in the morning. We are, and we know it's the absolute worst. I can tell you, throughout the whole division, throughout the region, we get these calls from our community members all the time. My parents are just off of Erin Mills, so they're yelling in my ears about Erin Mills Parkway. I wish I could tell you. So a very smart individual said, we can't police behavior, and it's true. Will it disappear? Absolutely not, because drivers do it's an opportunity. If we have a car in the area, it works, but for the most part, our cars are not in the right spot at the right time. And I'm gonna just say it, there's no kids in the room. These idiots who think that these are nice cars driving up and down the street, they torment our community. So we're doing everything we can. More can be done, and we're trying to do that.
Thank you. I'm going to address one of these questions, and then I'm going to turn it over to the MP. So the question is about Indwell, and with the new Indwell development being built, is there going to be increased police presence around that building when it gets built in Clarkson? I think I want to clarify a little bit, because Indwell is an affordable, supportive housing provider. That doesn't mean they're criminals. That doesn't mean that they're more likely to commit crimes. It just means they have needs that include housing and support that is provincially and federally funded. Now, I know people are concerned with the Indwell building that's over in Port Credit, but the situation is very different. There's actually 3 Indwell buildings in Mississauga, the one being built in Clarkson, the one that has been built and has been operating for several years now in Port Credit, and one that's been running for the last year and a half in Streetsville. Now, the biggest difference between the one in Streetsville and the one in Port Credit is Streetsville actually has higher need. There are people there who have enhanced support services. who are living there. And then the people over at Port Credit are more standard services. Now, the other biggest difference with the building is that in Port Credit, they also house the Compass. And the Compass is our local food bank, which is very needed at this moment. Every single year, we're seeing increases in people needing food, and food insecurity has gone through the roof. And the increase in homelessness is big. So there is a larger homeless population in and around that in-will building because they need access to the food bank. And so the concerns around safety are more related around to that population. We did compare the stats, and we looked at the in-well building in Streetsville, and there's no significant increase in police activity because, again, these are people who just have needs, and I think we should be compassionate about that. Question to the MP, it's about the border, and it was about auto thefts. Why aren't the police stationed at the ports to intercept stolen vehicles? Most, if not all, stolen vehicles are being shipped overseas. And would the government support using the notwithstanding clause and any other alternate measures to help reduce the incidence of criminals being back in the community and keeping them in prisons for a longer time?
Thanks, Alvin. And I do want to thank Alvin for actually hosting this event year over year. It's important for all of us to have this sense of communication, and I commend you. And I commend the officers for coming in here and to enable it. They also do, they release, at least I receive them, notifications in terms of what's happening. And that's important for us to attend to, and they provide their phone numbers and accesses. Back to border security and auto theft. There's a list of things that we've been doing in order to preclude some of that. I mean, we've invested nearly $1.5 billion just to strengthen border security. We invested more than $814 million to combat gun and gang violence. We provided $9.1 million to provincial and territorial and municipal police forces to create additional capacity to take custody of those stolen vehicles that are recovered by the CBSA, which is the border security. We invested another $28 million to detect and search shipping containers for stolen vehicles, another $15 million over 3 years to support the law enforcement agencies to work to combat auto theft. We passed legislation on CBSA officers to have more power to inspect those packages crossing the border, and implemented strong restrictions on fentanyl use and a number of other things. And I have more here, but I don't want to regurgitate this. Bottom line is we're hiring more RCMP, we're hiring more border security, we have more engagement at the border to detect and preclude those auto thefts and illegal activity crossing the border. But there's quite a bit of other things that are happening at the border. And gun violence and gun crime and smuggling is a big part of that too. The other point was, would I support the notwithstanding clause? Folks, as you may know, I was there provincially, where the provinces use that jurisdictional power to support their cause. Not once in the 11, 12 years that I was there, and a few occasions came up to us where we were asked to consider the notwithstanding clause for some matters that were before us. It's a slippery slope when you start to use it. It was then initially to try to facilitate Quebec's engagement in our Charter of Rights and Freedoms that protect all of us. So to use a notwithstanding clause, as Alberta is claiming to use, and maybe Ontario on certain occasions, is a cop-out, no pun intended, because there's a better way. And the better way is to enforce the law. It's very clear. You have judges, you have JPs, you have enforcement. We have understanding of the violence and the crime. These criminals shouldn't be let out. Just enforce it. And the interpretation of those criminalities is done by a judge. And if the premier wants to then issue, well, notwithstanding what they did, I'm going to provide for something else, you're then going to have political interference in your judicial system. That judicial system, the system should be improved by all means, and those criminals should be in jail. But it's not up to a politician, a prime minister, or a premier, or an attorney general to determine what that law should be. That's why you have arm's length independent officers of the courts to do so. So I would caution us. We are very disappointed, make no mistake, that some of these criminals have been let out on bail. It's not the federal government deciding those. It's the very judges at the provincial level that are making those decisions. That has to stop. And we're making every effort in our bail reforms to try to find it even harder for them not to do so. And to the credit of the province, they're trying to do their utmost to find ways not to allow judges to let their criminals out. We need the courts to be administered more effectively. They need to be funded, and we need to ensure that the criminal activity beyond just our community is superseded, and that's where the federal government's coming into play to try to find ways to prevent those crimes from happening. Culture has to change. We have a great community. We're going to keep it safe.
Thank you, Charles. So the next sort of bunch of questions is around communications from residents to residents with the police, and also with incidents that are happening. There was a couple of cases of some misinformation, but also, when there's a home invasion happening, what should you do? Or how do you find out about it? There was also a question about the alleged coyote attack over on Orr Road a couple weekends ago. Now, CTV kind of jumped to conclusions very quickly and assumed it was a certain type of it was a coyote attack. We immediately sent our animal services team. There had been no sightings of a coyote in that neighborhood, and there had been no reports of attacks. Generally speaking, coyotes are not there. They're not going after you. If their behavior is changing, please report it. If you see it, please report it. There is a map on the city's website where you can track that. But if it's required, the city staff will retrain them or eliminate them if necessary, if they've changed their human behavior amongst humans. Because the biggest challenge we have with coyotes is, in fact, people leaving food out for them. There are some of your neighbors, I'm not going to tell you who it is, who went to Costco and bought a rotisserie chicken and left it out for the coyotes to eat. Now, we have fined these individuals. We have taken them to court. We are begging them to stop. Because what it does is that it trains these wild animals to then expect food from humans. And we cannot do that. And if you think you're doing that in the best interests of those animals, you are not. Because then we have to destroy them because they are interacting with humans and they shouldn't be trained to do that. But when it comes to misinformation, there are several cases where people are talking about, certain types of people through the neighborhood, or how do they find out if, there is an alert or anything like that. So what should they be following, and how should they be communicating with police?
So if you are on social media, probably Instagram and X, I still say Twitter, but those are two quick social media platforms that you can follow us. So under Peel Police, so regional news, but 11 Division hits that as well. And also then there is our media release, which you can subscribe to. I actually subscribe to it because we are a region-wide service. So when I sit down to my desk at 11 Division, sometimes I don't know what took place at 22 Division, and I want to make sure that I do know everything because I might get questions from our community. So subscribe to the media releases and they will come into your email or however you choose to be notified. If you want help walking through that, you're welcome to reach out to me. And then again, my line of communication is always open as well. I'm not 24/7, but certainly email or phone, and we can work through whatever questions you might have and what we're able to say. We do work very hard at getting those media releases out when there is appropriate information that we can share with the public, safety concerns, traffic closures, all of that. There are a number of things that, one of them you were just talking about, if it's open under investigation, sometimes there is limited information that can be shared, but we still try to be as transparent as possible.
Just real quick. Only because we had a meeting yesterday, just a show of hands, I promised our communication director in our communications bureau, who uses X as a primary social media platform? Okay, this is good because this is good information for us. Who uses Facebook? I'm half Italian, so I call it Fatchbook, but anyways, it's an Italian joke. Sorry, Facebook, who uses it to communicate? Wow, okay, not that many people. Who's on Nextdoor? Well, I've been told that, no, I'm not even gonna say it because some people put their hands up, but Facebook is traditionally, I'm not saying it, anyways. Who's on Nextdoor? Okay, Nextdoor. So it's another app social media app where it actually, so we can geo-fence if there was information that was going out. We're looking at it right now. We can send it to area specific. So we can put on Nextdoor to say, shelter in place, there's this call that's going on, and it goes to the subscribers, period. It's not like you have to subscribe to Peel Police. If you're on Nextdoor, we put it out there. So actually, I don't know. I don't know much about it if it's on a desktop as well. That's a great question. It is is it mostly desktop? Okay, so there you go. So I stay off of social media. But okay, this is just good for me information because I promised I would follow up on how we can better communicate with our communities. So
Do you want to ask people about feeling unsafe?
Oh yeah, so one of the questions, and again, this is just like I had asked earlier, when we see comments of, I feel extremely unsafe, or this is not me being, I'm being sincere. If anyone who has those feelings, can you, and not break-in enters and auto thefts, we completely understand that, but if there's anyone in this room that's extremely or feels extremely unsafe, what are those feelings? Because I want to be able to address them through strategies. And please feel free.
Normally I get stopped by certain individuals. It is guys themselves, yeah. It's like even at, so even at Costco I was there, so there was a person, say almost 6 feet in height and very bulky, but he was dressed up as a woman, literally. But I cannot, how should I say this, I cannot even counter argue with him, right? And I get literally scared. I see people who are stalking at me when I'm going for a walk. He wears a black hat, a crooked stick, and dressed up like as if he's limping or something. I have seen him, but again, I don't know how to report this person. And this is, and some time back I took my kids to one of for cherry picking or something. So again, that same individual, but he was doing like this, and again, dressed up as a very old woman. What are they saying to you?
Nothing. I mean, they were just trying to intimidate me. Let me put it this way.
How were they intimidating you?
I don't know how to explain that, but again, it's these bad feelings. And a few days back, someone in a gray silver Chevy SUV, he was tailgating me by 1 inch, actually speaking, at Truscott Drive when I was dropping my kid to the school at Lawn Park. So I don't know what is going on in this neighborhood, and that's why we have this CPLC meeting with Division 33 where I used to live in North York. So I had requested our fine feathered friend, where's he, Alvin, to if we can bring this up.
I'm not that 6-foot guy that's blocking at it.
So that's the so that's the reasoning behind it. So I think it's better that we engage the community over here so that we interact on a month-to-month basis and understand what is going on. I have three kids who have attended all 3 schools over here. My eldest daughter is in the university, and my other 2 boys are in Hillcrest and Lawn Park. So obviously, as a parent, I get nervous and very worried, especially because we are working parents. So my youngest kid, he leaves the house alone when he's going to Hillcrest. So I don't know how else to explain this, literally.
No, I appreciate that. So I'll just touch on the community meetings that you were talking about. We haven't done it for a while, sorry. We haven't done that ever since I've been in there because we do these town halls. I know it's been a common ask about getting, I can't remember the acronym, but essentially just getting these community meetings. Hopefully you can appreciate the bandwidth required for us to meet with every community is extreme. And so, not to say that we don't want to do it, we try to find different forums. We are going to take this away to see if there's a way that we can do maybe a ward meeting, break it down where we can do things like that, just to be able to have a bit more contact with our community members, not in a forum like this, but just hey, can we ask a few questions and go from there, a bit more constant. With the unsafe feeling and that, if that happens, you've got to call if it's not something where you're immediate danger, call the non-emergency to get us in the area. That's what I would ask. If you feel extremely unsafe or there's actually something happening, you call 911. But that information I'll never know if it's not shared with us. For sure. So the question is with the non-emergency line, it's, I'm going to say it, it's 905-453-3311. That's our non-emergency line that you asked for communications. And you're absolutely right, to dial that, to remember it. There was talk about having a 3-digit, like 311, but having something different. But I'll tell you from the policing standpoint, we don't ever want to get somebody mixed up that if you have an emergent situation, 911. We don't want people to have to worry about, okay, what is it? And then just call 911 as a default, so we keep our number like that. So I do appreciate what you're saying, but we have our non-emergency line the way it is, so we don't cross the two.
905-453-3311. Put in your phone if you get a chance to do it. Now, the call takers for 905-453-3311 are the same call takers as 911. So you are getting the same level of service. You're just obviously further down on the priority list because they need to get to the priority 1, priority 2, priority 3, 4, 5 calls first, which is totally appropriate. So it is an excellent service. I would call it. It's 24 hours. We're at 8:30. I know some people have been here. It's a warm room. If you need to leave, please do. There's information at the back to contact the officers here. And I have some information with Brenda at the front as well. And I know Charles is here as well, and his staff are here if you need to reach out and contact him. I will try to get through these questions that I have left in sort of a rapid fire way to try and get more. But I know also Charles needs to get to the airport because he flew in from Ottawa today to be here with you. I will try to get through what I have here, and if you have more questions, do you need these questions to be public? Because they're still here, and you can stay and ask more questions. Yeah, we can send it back out too. So I'll try to do a couple more questions if people have questions that don't get addressed in this. Okay, so we can talk about that in a minute. Can I get through these questions? I'm going to try to rapid fire. Lawrence, I'm just going to try to get through this for a second.
From the floor. One more question from the floor. My name is Lawrence Keiston, and I read the budget. It gives a total staffing report of 3,800 people of that, but doesn't give a breakdown. Can you tell us how many officers are employed in that 3,900 and how many civilians for 2025 and also for 2024?
So I think if you're breaking down, I'll say 2025, the breakdown was 300 officers, 56 civilians. There's a ratio that they use for every officer. It's like point within the budget. When we talk about the overall number of 3,600 or 3,800, I want to say we are just about to cross 2,600 sworn members, give or take. I could be off on that. You're quizzing me. It's a great question, but our ratio is basically 3 to 1, 2 to 1. So we've got, you know what, I'll get your information. I'll get you that exact number. I'll break it down for you.
And maybe to clarify an earlier comment, because we were talking about Brampton versus Mississauga. And so Brampton's population has actually just surpassed Mississauga's. Mississauga does still pay a disproportionately larger percent of the regional budget because we have higher property values and we have more businesses. Now we are trying to fix that. We're trying to fix that with the provincial government to get them to solve that issue. In terms of crime, the number of officers are essentially split. There are 2 divisions per large city, and the crime stats are showing that they're essentially the same. Now, that doesn't mean that every crime is the same. There are more homicides in Brampton than there are in Mississauga, but then there are more B&Es in Mississauga than there are in Brampton. So the amount of Peel regional police resources is the same between the two cities in terms of value, in terms of what we're trying to get. And that's going to be consistent moving forward with the 2 new divisions coming up. Okay, I said I would try to do rapid fire to get more of you out here, but this question is around things that people can get. How can I keep my vehicle trackable and safe? Do you recommend any specific types of trackers? What other types of anti-car theft things can I purchase? What brands or types of locks, tracking devices, or theft prevention are recommended? You mentioned Ring. Can you expand on that? Is the siren loud, and what triggers the siren? Broken windows or the contact sensors? So a lot of questions about materials themselves. And then there was also, I guess, related a SEPT head question. How do you start a neighborhood watch and a SEPT head assessment on your street? Gerald, I'm just going to point at you to talk to you after this meeting, or you can email me and I can give you his contact. And then if you can get a number of neighbors who are interested in starting a neighborhood watch and a SEPT head, then start with Gerald and Melanie. Detectives, do you want to talk about devices?
Yeah, I can start with the auto stuff. Hi, Brent Eveland. I work on the auto portfolio with the Bear unit. I'm just going to answer the question specifically related to preventing auto theft with your vehicle. As far as things you can purchase, aftermarket things, they can be as cheap as air tags, which you can buy on Amazon, $80 for 4 of them. The more you have, the better, because oftentimes thieves will locate them and remove them. You can use clubs on your steering wheel. If you have a target vehicle, oftentimes insurance companies are proactively reaching out and requesting people install like a tag service. Has anyone had that? Okay, have you done that? Yeah, okay. So speaking specifically from my experience, the tag service or other aftermarket trackers work almost 100% of the time. So outside of that, if you want to spend more money, you can put like the metal poles at the bottom of your driveway. I see those around these neighborhoods. Parking your vehicle in your driveway, in your garage. And then other than that, I think the more methods you have to prevent theft, the better. Sorry, yes, you can install aftermarket kill switches. There's a multitude of things, but the more you have, the better. Because if a vehicle is stolen, if you have a target vehicle and it is stolen, our capabilities to track it are better with the more you have. Tag utilizes GPS, radio, and satellite. So, I mean, they aren't able to defeat all of those systems.
So that's from a vehicle perspective, and just a few things to add on. Just in our experience dealing with hundreds of these stolen auto cases, the club is still very effective, okay? We can talk about disabling devices. You can get into a lot of money, spending money, taking on all kinds of ideas to prevent these car thefts, but something like the club can be very effective, something as simple as that. I know it can be a bit of a nuisance taking on and off the wheel, but simple can be better. From a home perspective, I know that was asked as well. In our experience, you would just want a few basic things to prioritize. One is to have an alarm system, have it be loud, audible, and monitored, okay? So if you've got a home security company, the question for them is, when that alarm goes off, how are they going to reach out to the police? And how are they going to confirm to the police that it's an active break and enter? Are they going to just let the police know it's an alarm, but we're not sure if it's a break-in? Or does your alarm company have access to your video cameras or access to motion sensors to say, no, there's someone here right now, upgrade that police response? Okay, that helps us on our end. Other things you can do, reinforce the doors with multiple bolts. As we've noticed in this specific community, a lot of it is rear door entries coming from the green space. So the one thing you can look into and talk to Safe City Mississauga as well is window film. When a criminal attends your window or your door and tries to break that glass, it's not going to shatter. And what we've seen is if it doesn't shatter on that first or second attempt, they're moving on. So just a very basic thing you can do, window film, it's installed on the inside of the window, it prevents it from shattering, and the same thing on the doors. And those are just a few basic steps you can take. If you're available afterwards, I'm happy to talk to you about more information. And we've provided our contact information on the pamphlets at the back. We're happy to talk to anyone who wants to follow up with us.
Thank you. So just as we're wrapping up, I want to talk a little bit more about what we can do, because there's been a few conversations about that, and especially when it comes to auto theft. I know the federal government and the provincial government have been working with the manufacturers as well, right? There are certain vehicles that are easier to steal, and they're just, like, I've seen a demonstration. You could steal a certain car in 15 seconds if you have the right equipment. There's a list. There's a list that you can see from the Canadian Insurance Board that will show you the list of cars that are most frequently stolen. And in reverse, actually, Gerald and I have the same car, because I asked him, what car do you drive and where is it on the list? And you said it was like the second least stolen car in Canada. And then so I bought that car. And so now we have the exact same car. But I'm never worried about it getting stolen, mostly because it's electric, and the places that they're getting stolen and sent to don't have the infrastructure for that. So anyway, in terms of, you heard about the SEPTED already. If you are looking to have maybe a group of neighbors or anything like that you're looking for more information from, Melanie's the person to talk to, and I'm sure the detectives are happy to give them some pointers and advice as well. A lot of it's online, but if you want to hear it from a police officer, they'll be there as well. I'll try to get a couple of quick questions here from people who've had their hands up.
Thank you. I'd like to address Charles D'Souza. This is, I think everyone will be very interested in this. I want to talk to you about guns. I don't know if people around here know how easy it is to get a gun around here. Do you know you can get a machine gun? It's not that hard. You can get a machine gun if you know how and where to look for it. Now, the problem is you got all these youth in the stealing cars, breaking into houses. Do you know why? There's no teeth in the law. They get caught, they go to court, they get processed, boom, they're out. These poor policemen are up here, are running around like a dog catcher, catch and release. Okay? And who can change that? Barbara can't change it. Your car mechanic can't change it. Alvin can't change it. It's the politicians. They're the only ones that can change it. Now, there's got so many criminals going around here with guns, and they're using them. And this has got to stop. And if there's some teeth in the law where you get caught with a gun, you're going to jail. You're not going to mom's and wearing a little bracelet around there where you can sit in a nice hotel or a nice fancy house or anything like that. You're going to jail, and you're going to stay there. And that's the way it should be. You get caught with a gun, 6 years. And if you use it during a crime, 14 years. And let's see how many people want to play gangster. Okay? So this is what I want people to realize. These poor policemen up here, they're just dog catchers. They pick them up, release them. This is the guy here that should be doing something. Okay? Oh, he's getting all upset now. I got him up. I got him out of the chair. Okay, go ahead.
That's not what I'm doing.
Go ahead.
I'm just trying to be respectful.
Okay.
What we have here is an understanding that we have laws that have been broken. Those laws have been attributed and have been established by the courts, by all levels of government. The administration of that law is not the federal government. It's the provincial government. They're the ones that are appointing the judges. They're the ones that are imposing the jails. They're the ones that are enforcing the law, and that has to be made. What the bail reform, we've done much. We've already made it certain that the onus has to be reverse onus on the criminal. We made it now, we're putting in this law right now that consecutive terms have to be addressed. So in other words, if they broke a law with 3 or 4 different types of crimes, they're not going to be combined. They're going to be scattered right through. So if it's a 5-year sentence and another 2-year sentence and another 10-year sentence, they're all consecutive. They're not going to be settled for just 5 years. These are some of the administrators. But your point, you're pointing fingers at one level of government. That's not the case. I've made it clear from the outset, we have to cooperate, all of us. Everybody has a responsibility. The ombudsman was was scathing about the lack of infrastructure that the province has been doing when it comes to law. It's so easy for them to blame bail. The fact that people are suggesting that we're somehow soft on crime is insulting, when it's all about ensuring people are put in jail. And the laws have been very effective, and they're very specific. Enforce it. And that hasn't happened. And that's why we're here today, to ensure that we all work together to make it so.
Thank you, Charles. Last question, and then people are going to be here if you have more questions, but we're going to wrap the meeting.
So I know Brampton has encampments are no longer allowed in Brampton, and it seemed like for your handout that it sounded like they were going to be stopping that, which is critical. The shelter system has a lot of problems, which is why people don't want to go to the shelter system. So even what we need a big increase in safe shelter systems and an increase in the number in from the colds because of the high number of people that are unhoused and the cost of affordable housing is not available. Are we allowed to have encampments in Mississauga?
The law that allows what Brampton's talking about, it also applies to Mississauga. It's the same law.
That's a problem. Because we're not increasing safe shelters, and we're certainly not increasing the number in from the cold spots. So that's serious.
So certainly this question about the homeless and the encampments is an important one. The provincial government did change the rules in terms of breaking up encampments and having police being able to come in. Now, we don't take this power lightly. We've done it on a few occasions to break up certain encampments, but these people also need a place to go. We will break up the encampments when it becomes unsafe for the neighbors or the people who are in the encampments. But we have a no turn away policy in Peel. We will try to house them as best as we can. We've put people up in hotels. We've built new shelters. 2 weeks ago, the federal government came and gave the Region of Peel $103 million for our new asylum seeker center, which is by the airport, and that is a permanent structure that is now there. The temporary one was in our ward, in our area, over on Erin Mills, and that housed several hundred people. We're now trying to do more. I will continue to work with the region to try and make sure that we have more shelter spaces for these folks. We're not burning tents. We would never do that. No. When we come in to remove an encampment, it's because it's dangerous, and it tends to be because there are propane or fires that are obviously inappropriate for those neighborhoods. And some of the reasons that some people can't be in a shelter is because they're either dangerous or they're active drug users, and that's not appropriate for the shelter either.
We do have another part of our organization, so community safety well-being, and that is what we call our wraparound services. So we have community mobilization, our divisional mobilization, DMU, also members of our CERT team. We partner with the city, so there are regular and routine on city property checks of the encampments. There's resources offered, there's housing options made available, assistance if they need it relocating, and then also too with respect, it's been going very, very well, and it's really been a positive interaction for them. Sorry? No, I'm talking about the encampments, which was your question. No, it's, so that may be your perspective, yes, but we have teams that are working with it. Which is it?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. All right. Thank you, ma'am. Yes, I've met.
I'm just going to have to go.
Yeah, no problem.
Listen, folks, I have to leave. I apologize. I chair defense, which is another matter of security for for Canada, and I got to be there first thing at 7:30 in the morning tomorrow. But thank you so much for coming out. Thank you, Alvin, for doing it. All of you. Cheers.
Thank you, Charles. And that I wanted to wrap up as well. Our policing and our community is safer and better because of your engagement. What we got in the last year was because of the people who are in this room this year and last year and the year before who continue to push politicians like Charles and Rudy and myself to make sure that we're investing in community safety as much as possible. So I need your support with that. I need you to continue speaking up and saying we want more and we're trying to get better. And then we need to support the Peel Police when they're initiating their new initiatives so that we can continue to make our community safer. So I wanted to thank them. Thank you all for being here today. And thank you, best community in Ontario. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.